Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I would like to greet all the devotees of the Oxford Buddha Vihara Singapore. A happy Vesak. This year, I can't be here with you in person. And once more, our Sangha, our trustees, management committees, volunteers and devotees cannot hold Vesak physically out there as a group. So we are holding this Vesak online. The meaning of Vesak becomes more relevant than ever. Sometimes when we have to hold Vesak celebration in a big hall, there was so much stress to hire the hall because we haven't got a big place of our own, and also to think about the cost of hiring such a place. A lot of logistics, starting from flowers, food, cleaning, many things. But today, I want you to bring Vesak into your heart and celebrate it in your heart, but still feel connected with everyone associated with the Oxford Buddha Vihara in Singapore, in Kuala Lumpur, in England, in Serbia, in Hungary, and of course now I'm at Shan State Buddhist University, so with people here also. And indeed, with everyone in Singapore. First, among the fellow Buddhists of all denominations, then all the Singaporeans and beyond, to connect with all humanity on the Vesak Day. So let's devote today the Vesak Day, which is also the 11th anniversary of the Oxford Buddha Vihara in Singapore. Let's take 1 minute to think about the past 12 months. We celebrated our 10th anniversary, on a grand scale. Not just us. Last year, Chinese people all over the world celebrated the Chinese New Year with a lot of fun and a lot of traditional rituals. The same goes with the New Year celebration on the 1st January all over the world. A lot of excitement. And what about Taunggyi, April New Year for the Burmese, for the Shan, Songkran for the Thai, also in April. I would do the April New Year for the Sri Lankan, for the Cambodian, for the Laotian, because April New Year is celebrated. More than 1 billion people as well. So last year, the last 12 months, we celebrated on a grand scale as usual. But this year, every New Year is quiet, starting from the Chinese New Year. Then January New Year, April New Year, including the Shan New Year. If the Shan New Year was not quiet in the last one, then the coming one would be quiet. So what I would like to say is that every celebration is affected all over the world, social and religious function is affected. So when we got some perspective like this, then the way we celebrate Vesak online like this it's not strange anymore, because we are one of the 7.4 billion people in the world. We are not spared by the disruption of life caused by the COVID-19, the novel coronavirus. The meaning of Vesak that we need to focus on this year is two. I like to focus on two. Primarily, the first one is compassion. The Buddha in nearly all of his previous lives and in his last life as Prince Datta, he came from privileged background. As a prince, as a king, as a leader, as a prime minister, as a general, as an ascetic, as a teacher, as a counselor. So usually he occupied a privileged position. But he didn't get to those privileged position, good position, without deserving it. The reason that he deserved those privileged position was his compassion. Compassion here, it's not just about, okay, I feel bad for you. Okay, it's horrible what you're going through. It's horrible. I feel sorry for you. It's more than these kind words. It's more than that. Compassion is always associated with action. We have to remember three positive emotions in grades, okay? The first grade, or the lowest one, is called sympathy. Sympathy is about understanding other people's pain, but we don't feel it. We don't share the feeling, we only understand, okay, that's a problem for them. Empathy is more than understanding. It's about feeling, it's about sharing the pain of those people. That empathy usually prompts us to do something, which is compassion. So compassion is always associated with a desire to relieve suffering of someone. Of course, it can be yourself. If you have compassion for yourself, I mean, when you do something wrong, when you make mistake, instead of blaming yourself again and again, you would feel your own pain and you would start thinking. You would start consoling yourself and at the same time thinking, what should I do not to repeat this? What should I do not to feel guilty? What should I do? To be better, to do better next time. So a lot of positive thinking will come in. Without these three qualities, sympathy, the lowest, higher than that is empathy, and then the highest one, compassion. Without these three, our mind will go to negative thinking and personalization. Personalization is, wow, it's me again, I have done this again, silly me. You know, the way you personalize it is always associated with negative emotion. The Buddha's teaching of non-self, anatta, is about not personalizing suffering, not personalizing problem. And compassion here, if we look at this in the context of the COVID-19 coronavirus, we need to develop our compassion stronger because even after the world has found and produced a vaccine for this coronavirus, the economic consequences of this pandemic will live on for many years. The economy of many countries, maybe the whole world, will shrink. The money will become tight. You know, when there is economic hardship, the social consequences also follow. So in that situation, it's very easy to be negative, to feel low, to feel depressed, to be suspicious of each other. It's just so easy. But we need to think about, we need to ask ourselves a question. Whenever we produce an opinion about something our own government does, or something that a company does, any association does, any religious organization, Buddhist or non-Buddhist does, whenever we are going to produce an opinion, we need to ask ourselves an important question. Would my opinion become part of the problem? Meaning, would I be worsening the problem by by entertaining this opinion? Or whether my opinion will help contribute to find an answer and relieve the suffering for many people. So what we are thinking, what we are speaking, what we are doing, we need to to check it all the time, whether it would become part of the problem or part of a solution. Compassion is intended to become part of a solution. And is a big EQ, emotional quotient, emotional intelligence. So what we need to remember is like a bodhisattva, the Buddha before he became Buddha. That suffering was common. That this hardship affects not just the poor but also the rich. Every religion. When we have this in mind and try to connect with the pain of as many people as we can, compassion will arise. Think about the problem of taxi drivers, the frontline healthcare workers, business people, company staff, and even, the people ruling the country all over the world. Everybody is caught unprepared by this virus. So there's no point picking up all the negativities without having a positive contribution. Positive contribution means a good idea how to solve that problem. Just sit and moan and blame, that wouldn't work. The urge to blame, the urge to moan is in itself is part of suffering. So we need to look into our heart and think about this. Meditate on this pain, observe this pain, observe the desire to criticize other people without offering an answer. I want to tell you something from this book. Altruism, the power of compassion to change yourself and the world, by the French Tibetan monk Dr. Matthew Rector, a scientist who became a Buddhist monk many years ago. By the way, I bought this book from Chinatown in Singapore. He quotes a research by two American researchers, Nancy Eisenberg and Cynthia New. The two psychologists who worked on 4 years old. They observed 4 years old. Okay. In kindergarten. When they see children sharing their snack with somebody else, and they would ask the child later, why did you share your snack with that person? The children's answer is always simple. It's something like that. Because he's hungry. Meaning, the child is focusing on the need of the other person. They are sharing their snack not because they are afraid of being punished by their teacher or by their parents. No. They don't think in terms of fear. What they do is they relate to the need of their fellow human being because he is hungry. Simple. Meaning this child is not expecting anything in return. So as a human being, we have that selfless compassion. It's within us. We only need to water it, to strengthen it. Otherwise, fear can defeat our compassion. Fear of this, fear of not having enough, fear of catching the virus. Many fears, a lot of fear. If we are not aware of that, that fear will cripple us, will cripple our life. We won't be able to function properly. I'm not saying we shouldn't be cautious. We should be extremely cautious. But we should be cautious on the basis that this COVID virus is dangerous for our fellow human being as well as for ourselves. On that basis, not just for ourselves. So, for example, when we put on mask, when we put on this, partly to protect ourselves if somebody sneezes so that we don't catch the droplets. But also to protect them in case we sneeze, we cough, so that they don't catch anything from us. So it's both ways. By wearing this mask, maybe a face shield, maybe washing your hand, you're protecting yourself. At the same time, you're protecting anyone you come across. Your family members, your colleagues, your fellow citizens of the country and fellow citizens of the world. So if we have that consciousness, that is compassion. We are putting on a mask, but this is a compassionate action. Otherwise, you are doing this, you feel so uncomfortable because you want to breathe just freely as usual, and before you get used to this, you feel a little bit uncomfortable. So we need to have a strong psychological transformation, even to use this mask. And social distancing, hygienic procedures, everything. So by staying at home, you're actually being compassionate to yourself, to your family members, and to your neighbors, to your fellow citizens. So this compassion is very important. Very important. Because people read upsetting news. They read upsetting news all the time about the coronavirus in this country. Okay, the death rate has increased, and the infection rate has become how much? That sort of thing. If you consume upsetting news, which is dukkha, which is suffering, without proper attitude, in Pali called sammaditthi and sammasankappa. Sammaditthi is the attitude of universal suffering. Sammasankappa is wisdom of compassion, meaning to feel the pain of other people and to do everything that we can to reduce that suffering. By staying at home, by following the Ministry of Health and the government guideline, we are actually being very compassionate. This self-discipline is wonderful. Without this, human being will suffer more. So in order to suffer less, compassion is essential. So today, we remember everyone who has lost their life to the COVID-19 in Singapore, all over the world. In Singapore, maybe, we mean everyone. Everyone, we trying to reflect on their pain, the pain of loss, their loved ones, and the pain of economic hardship, the pain of having to live in a confined place all the time at home, even with your family members. It becomes a little bit difficult as the time goes on. So we need to feel the pain of those people. The more we share their pain, the less we suffer. This is the logic that comes from the Four Noble Truths. The Buddha says, suffering is a resource. Not just the source of anxiety, but it can be a resource to reduce anxiety. If we understand it properly and if we feel the pain of other people as well, then suffering, which is the cause of anxiety, becomes part of medicine. For example, people who catch a virus, and over time they develop this immunity called antibody. So the body is using that virus to protect against the virus itself. It takes a bit of time. Even in the vaccine, people actually put a bit of virus in there to develop antibody. So this is compassion. This is compassion. Let's meditate on compassion afterwards. The second one is mudita, that is the strength of human being. Human being has gone through a lot of pandemics. The largest one that we remember is 1918. Is sometimes is called Spanish influenza, sometimes is called swine flu. It happened during the World War I. Many millions of people died, partly because it happened during the war. It spread through the troops in the front line very quickly. Millions, many millions. And the world has recovered from that. The world has learned from this. And in the last 20 years, SARS and MERS and even Ebola. That kind of epidemic, they may not have been as widely infectious as this COVID-19. Nevertheless, they are also as deadly as we have seen. And one thing that we can notice is that it's related to the way we treat animals. They all come from animals. The virus from the animal affecting human being. But what I would like to tell you about the strength of human being is that now more than 100 labs, research groups in the world, including Oxford University, Chicago University, they are rushing, they are racing against time to produce a vaccine. Of course, because of the technology and the advanced knowledge that we know about various viruses, this may be the quickest time that the world has ever produced a vaccine for a virus. We are thinking about how a timeline of maybe 6 months to 8 months to 10 months like this. Maximum maybe a year, we don't know exactly, but many scientists are working day and night on this. The Oxford scientist groups is saying that a group of scientists from Oxford is saying that maybe by September a vaccine will be available. Whether or not by September we will have vaccine, the message is that, okay, we will be there. Definitely we will be there. And a lot of people are pouring in resources. The European Union, the Americans, the Asian, and top universities, everybody is actually chipping in. So, on our part, what we have to do, we have to ensure that we contribute to the society in some way. But by wearing this mask, we are contributing to that. By being positive, by remaining positive, by being connected with the suffering of our fellow human being, we are contributing a great deal. Of course, if we can do more, if our neighbor has problem with food, if we can offer food, that's very good. I organized with the donation I received from the Dhamma talk and also a few other people. I have ordered PPE, that's personal protective equipment for hospitals. For hospitals here in southern Shan state. We want to do something that we can. And distributing some masks, and also or talking about the stress that people face during this pandemic and how we should cope with that. So I have been working and talking about this in 4 languages. We need to remain positive. because we as a human being, we have this capacity. And is for our own survival. As you can see, Charles Darwin has said in one of his books, I quote from this book, Oxford Handbook of Compassion Science. Those communities which include the greatest number of the most sympathetic members would flourish best and rear the greatest number of offspring. Two communities compare. One community has more members with sympathy, empathy, compassion. The other has less of those people. And the community with more people with sympathy, empathy, compassion will survive, will flourish more. Why? Because they help each other. Singapore becomes so established, so developed, because everybody works hard. Everybody follows the rule. The government, says the government works very hard. The people work very hard. In education, in business, in taking care of their family, in making sure that the country and the community never walks back, but instead progresses further. Because of this mindset, Singapore has become what it is today. So whatever problem we are facing today, we overcome this together because of the strength that we have. If we think about this kind of the strength that we have individually, as an organization, like for example the Oxford Buddha Vihara, I know we have some setback because of this. We have had to postpone the opening of the Oxford Buddha Vihara in Hungary. Everything is almost set and done. But then with this, we have to postpone. And the expansion in Singapore and also in Serbia, we need to, we have some setback, obviously. But whatever happens, if we keep thinking about what we have done well, what we can do, what human being as a whole can achieve, is something like hardwiring happiness. We will be changing our brain. Hardwire means, okay, we make it permanent. We make happiness our default, to use computer term. We need to change the default of our brain. From complaining, looking at negative things, negative aspect all the time, to seeing positive ones, appreciating positive things in people, in ourselves, believing that things can be better. If we think about this again and again, this book by Dr. Rick Hanson from University of California, Berkeley, a Buddhist meditation teacher and a neuropsychologist, he says, little by little, by thinking about good things like that, we will change our brain default from negativity bias to positivity, to happiness. He quotes one stanza of the Buddha in the Dhamma, where the Buddha says, drop by drop, positivity just like raindrops fill a barrel. In the same way, little by little, by connecting with positivities in people, in ourselves, on a daily basis, our happiness is secure. This is called the law of little things. Little things become powerful. It's called the law of little things. So, on this Vesak day, let's meditate on compassion. Compassion, okay. For 11 minutes, because we are celebrating 11th anniversary. Then breathe in and out again, then continue for another 11 minutes to do mudita, to do positive thinking. Just remember how the most venerable Prakupa Bunchum came all the way to Singapore to bless us. And how hard we work. Not just for the last 11 years, since 1994. The second time when I came to Singapore and Mary picked me up at the airport. We didn't talk about the OBV, formal OBV at that time. But that was the impetus, if you like, that started subconsciously in our mind. And today, with Singapore, with Serbia, with England, with Hungary, with Myanmar, and Malaysia, although we don't have OBV in Thailand, is almost OBV there. So within, can we say, 17 years from the date of founding the OBV in Oxford in the UK, within the last 17 years, we have been able to serve people all over the world. And we need to think about little things. Cooking, cleaning, making regular contribution, organizing a meeting, filling application, filling tax returns, communicating many things, writing an email, making a phone calls, everything for the many. So we can revisit them as part of mudita meditation. We can do meditation. Okay, at the end of this meditation, I'd like to recite a few stanzas to invoke blessing on all of you for your long life, good health, and the resilience to overcome any difficulty. For all, for everyone associated with the Oxford Buddha Vihara in Singapore, and beyond, everyone in the world. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata sabba buddha nubhavena sada suti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata sabba dhamma nubhavena sada suti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata Sabba Sangha Nubhavena Saddha Suti Bhavantu Te. Happy Vesak, and all the blessing of the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha on all of you and your family members, your fellow citizens. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.